The diner smelled of coffee, bacon grease, and Sunday quiet until the slap broke it. A single, sharp sound that froze forks midair and sent a plate spinning to the floor. Clara didn't cry. She just blinked, her trembling hand hovering near the cheek that burned red. The boys laughed, that kind of laughter that echoes longer than the pain. One of them filmed it on his phone. The others turned away, pretending the sound didn't exist. Outside, a wind stirred the flags on Main Street. The world kept moving. Nobody stood up for her. Not the waitress polishing glasses, not the manager in the back, not even the man by the window who clenched his jaw but said nothing. Clara lowered her eyes to her lap, to the chrome rim of her wheelchair. She tried to disappear into the noise of clinking cups and soft rock music, wishing she could roll out of that place and erase herself from their world. And then the sound began, a low, distant rumble. Engines, more than one, growing louder, closer, like thunder rolling down asphalt. By the time the laughter stopped, every head in the diner had turned toward the glass windows, because the bikes had arrived. Morning light spilled to the diner windows, turning the steam above the coffee pots into soft gold. It was a kind of small-town place where everyone knew the cook's name, and the same 3 songs looped on the jukebox every day. For Clara, it was supposed to be a good morning. Pancakes, quiet time before class, maybe a smile from the waitress who always slipped her extra syrup. She liked this diner. It was safe, familiar, the kind of place that made her forget that life had changed 2 years ago, when the accident took her legs and half her courage. She sat near the corner booth, her wheelchair tucked neatly against the table, sketchbook open. On the page, she was drawing sunlight, a streak of yellow bleeding into blue. Her art teacher said she had a gift, but Clara didn't believe that anymore. Not since the whispers started. Not since the boys from school found new ways to make her feel smaller than her chair ever could. The waitress, a woman in her 40s named May, poured her coffee with a tight smile. "You okay today, sweetheart?" she asked softly. Clara nodded. "Yeah, just tired." May wanted to say more. She always did. But customers were waiting, and her boss didn't like her chatting up pity cases. So she walked away, pretending not to notice the group of teenagers sliding into the booth across from Clara. Their laughter was sharp, practiced, confident, the kind of sound that fills up a room. Clara's shoulders tensed. She tried to focus on her drawing, but their reflections in the window kept moving closer. Outside, the world looked peaceful. Tree leaves dancing in the breeze, sunlight flashing off the chrome of a parked motorcycle down the street. The sound of its idle engine was faint, a heartbeat beneath the chatter. Clara didn't know it yet, but that bike belonged to someone who had lost something too, someone who didn't walk away from cruelty anymore. And in exactly 57 minutes, that man and his brothers would ride down Main Street toward this diner. The laughter had a rhythm now, careless, steady, like a song only they enjoyed. Clara knew the sound too well. She'd learned to measure it. The first chuckle, the whisper, then the fake apology that always came before the shove. She tried to ignore them, tracing her pencil across the page. The line shook. The boy in the varsity jacket leaned forward, his sneakers squeaking against the linoleum. "Hey, Picasso," he said. "Draw something good today." His friend snickered. Clara kept her eyes down. "I'm busy," she murmured. "Oh, come on." Another voice said, the one with too much cologne and too little conscience. "Show us that sketchbook. Maybe she's drawing us heroes." A hand reached across the table. Fast. Her sketchbook slid away. Pages flipped open, flashing through drawings of sunlight, faces, and one image she'd never meant anyone to see, herself standing on 2 legs, smiling. The boys froze for a moment. Then laughter exploded like glass breaking. "Look at this." She drew herself walking. "What's next?" "The Olympics." The waitress, May, stood frozen near the counter. Her hand gripped a coffee pot, so tight her knuckles whitened. She wanted to stop them. She'd promised herself she would next time. But her boss's voice echoed in her head. "Don't get involved, May. We can't afford trouble." Clara's chest tightened. Her throat burned. The words spun around her, each insult heavier than the last. She reached for her sketchbook. Please, just give it back. The boy smiled, slow and cruel. He held up the page like a trophy. You want it? And then the sound that would haunt everyone in that diner. A slap, hard, sudden. Her head turned sharply. The sketchbook hit the floor, scattering torn pages like white birds. Time fractured. For one long second, nobody moved. The clatter of a spoon, the hum of the ceiling fan. Everything stopped. Then came the laughter. Louder this time. Nervous, confused. A man near the window looked away. Another whispered, "Just kids. Don't make a scene." Eva May stayed still, shame and fear fighting behind her eyes. Clara blinked, her cheeks stinging. The world blurred. She wanted to scream, to vanish, to disappear into the floor tiles. The ringleader leaned down, his voice dripping with mock kindness. "Guess you're not drawing that one, huh?" He dropped a crumpled napkin in her lap, like a victory flag, and walked out laughing. His friends followed, the bell above the door jingling like nothing had happened. For a while, the diner just sat there, in silence so heavy it felt alive. May finally moved, setting down the coffee pot. She crouched beside Clara, guilt making her voice tremble. "Sweetheart, I'm so sorry." Clara didn't answer. She just gathered the torn papers, her fingers shaking as she placed each one back in the book. The last page, the one with her standing tall, was smeared with syrup and tears. Outside, across the street, that lone motorcycle engine rumbled once, then went quiet. No one spoke for a long time. The air inside the diner felt thicker than smoke. Clara's cheek still burned, but it wasn't the pain that hurt. It was the silence that followed it. The kind of silence that tells you people saw what happened and decided you weren't worth defending. She wheeled herself toward the door, one trembling push at a time. May tried to follow, but Clara shook her head. "It's fine," she whispered, her voice cracking. I need to go." When the bell above the door jingled again, it sounded hollow. The laughter from earlier had left an echo in its place. Outside, the sky had turned pale gray. Clara's reflection trembled in the diner's glass. A small girl in a wheelchair, clutching a broken sketchbook. She could still see the faces behind the window. People pretending to eat, pretending to live with what they just witnessed. The town of Milford had always prided itself on being quiet, safe, and friendly. But for Clara, it was a place where pity came easier than courage. She rolled down the empty sidewalk, her wheels bumping against cracks in the pavement, her eyes blurred. At the corner, she stopped. The sound of an engine caught her attention. A motorcycle. She looked up. A man sat astride a black Harley, leather vest faded from years of sun and road. His eyes met hers for just a second, calm, steady, unreadable. Then the light changed, and he rode away. Clara exhaled, not knowing that this brief moment would be remembered hours later, when the same man returned with company. Back inside, May stood behind the counter, shaking. The coffee had gone cold in her pot. The manager came out from the kitchen, frowning. "What happened here?" May swallowed hard. "You didn't see?" He shrugged. "Teenagers. Probably her fault anyway. Don't let it get around." Something in May cracked. She slammed the coffee pot onto the counter. Her fault. He looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "Calm down, May. We got customers." But the booth where the boys had sat was empty now. Just crumbs and a crumpled napkin left behind. That night, May couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Clara's face. That quiet bravery in her eyes before she rolled away. She remembered her own daughter, long gone from this town, driven out after the same kind of cruelty. May picked up her phone, stared at it for a while, then opened a local Facebook group. Her fingers hovered over the keys. To whoever knows the girl who was hurt at Miller's Diner today, I'm sorry. We all should be. She hit post. By morning, the town would start to talk. And somewhere beyond the city limits, the roar of engines would echo across the highway, a sound that always found injustice like a storm finds thunder. May sat at her kitchen table long after midnight, staring at the same sentence on her phone. We all should be sorry. The post had already gathered dozens of comments. Some supportive, some defensive, most confused. People were arguing about who the girl was, who the boys were, whether it really happened. May rubbed her temples. She didn't care about the arguments. She cared about the way that girl's eyes had looked right before she left, like she'd already given up on being helped. The apartment was quiet, except for the old wall clock ticking over the hum of the fridge. Her husband's photo sat by the window, Mark, gone 6 years now. He'd been a long-haul trucker once, tough but gentle, part of a biker club that used to gather outside the very diner she worked in. Back then, the sound of motorcycles meant safety. Nobody messed with you when the steel wings were around. But times changed. The club drifted apart after Mark's accident. Some moved out of town. Some just disappeared. May sighed, reaching for her phone again. She scrolled through old contacts. Faces from another life. Men with nicknames instead of last names. Roar, Diesel, Hatch. She hesitated, thumb hovering over one name. Roar. He'd been at her husband's funeral. Quiet, respectful. He'd promised to look out for her if she ever needed help. She never called. Until tonight. May typed slowly, her fingers trembling. Roar, it's May. Something happened at the diner today. A disabled girl got hurt. Nobody stopped it. I froze. I can't stop thinking about it. She paused, staring at the blinking cursor, then added, I thought you should know. Her thumb hesitated for a full minute before she hit send. The message delivered. No reply. She leaned back in her chair, guilt pressing down on her like a weight. The phone buzzed once and her heart jumped, but it was just a notification. Your post has been shared 42 times. The town was talking now. People tagging schools, names, guesses. Gossip spreading faster than truth ever could. May whispered to herself, Please, someone do something right. By morning, the diner felt different. The same coffee smell, the same neon hum. But every glance felt sharper, like the walls remembered what happened. 2 teenage girls whispered in a booth. A man pretended to read his newspaper, his phone recording discreetly. The manager told May, no more drama today. She nodded, but her phone kept buzzing in her apron pocket. One message stood out, unknown number. Got your text. We're coming. No name. Just that. May's pulse spiked. She stepped outside for air. Across the street, she saw Clara's wheelchair parked by the art store. The girl was sketching again, still showing up, still quiet, still alone. May smiled faintly. You're tougher than all of us, she murmured. Then she heard it, distant at first, a low vibration under the morning traffic. Engines, more than one. The sound made the hairs on her arms rise. It wasn't thunder. It was them. Morning sunlight stretched across the empty highway, glinting off chrome and steel. 7 bikes cut through the mist like a moving storm, their engines blending into one long growl that made windows tremble as they passed. At the front rode Roar, tall, broad-shouldered, the road etched into his face. His leather vest carried the faded emblem of Steel Wings MC, ghosted with dust and time. Behind him, 6 riders followed tight, formation perfect, as if gravity itself held them together. Roar's phone buzzed inside his pocket at every stoplight. News alerts, screenshots, messages. The post for May had exploded overnight. Videos of the slap were circulating already. Someone at the diner had uploaded a shaky clip. It had spread to local feeds, then to biker forums. By sunrise, the Steel Wings didn't need convincing. They'd seen enough. Roar's voice came through his helmet mic, low and calm. We don't go looking for fights, he said, but we don't ride past them either. A chorus of engines answered, the club's version of a vow. Back in town, May poured coffee with trembling hands. The diner was busier than usual. People pretended to eat while whispering about the post. She should have stayed quiet, one woman muttered. Another shook her head. That poor girl. Someone's going to get sued. The manager hovered near the register, glancing out the window every few minutes. If those biker friends of yours show up, May, I swear. They're not my friends, she said softly. They're just good men who hate cowards. He frowned. unsure what that meant. Outside, the air changed. The far-off sound of engines rolled over the rooftops like thunder. Faint, steady, growing louder. Across town, Clara sat by the art store window, headphones on, sketchbook open. She'd drawn all night. Anything to stop replaying that slap in her head. Every page felt heavier than the last. She didn't see the group of older men stop outside, pointing at the diner's viral video on a phone screen. She didn't see the shopkeeper glance nervously toward the highway, but she did feel the vibration under her wheels, that distant rumble. Her pencil stopped. Through the glass, she saw reflections, light flickering on metal, black silhouettes moving like shadows. The first bikes appeared on Main Street just after 11. The roar turned every head. Children pressed their faces to glass. A delivery driver pulled over, hands tight on the wheel. 7 riders slowed in unison, boots hitting pavement. The air filled with the smell of gasoline and dust. May stepped outside, shielding her eyes from the glare. For a heartbeat, she was 20 years younger, standing beside her husband, watching these same men roll in for Sunday breakfast. Roar removed his helmet. Time had carved lines around his eyes, but the calm in them hadn't changed. "You weren't kidding," he said. His voice was rough sandpaper softened by years. May's throat tightened. "You saw the video?" Everyone did. He looked through the diner window, scanning faces that pretended not to stare. "We're just here to eat," he added, almost smiling. But everyone in earshot knew why they were really there. Inside, the bullies had returned, cocky and loud, bragging about their views online. They hadn't noticed the sound yet. When the door opened and the bells chimed, the laughter stopped mid-sentence. Boots, leather, the smell of the road. Roar and his brothers filled the doorway like a wall of storm clouds. He gave a small nod to May. "Coffee for 7?" She nodded back, her lips trembling with something between fear and relief. "On the house." The bikers took their seats slowly, the room shrinking around them. Clara, a few blocks away, had no idea yet. She wouldn't until later, when the videos flooded back online, showing what justice looked like in denim and chrome. For now, the engines cooled outside, ticking softly in the sun. And for the first time since yesterday's slap, the diner was quiet, but not from fear, from respect. The diner's hum returned in cautious whispers. Forks scraped plates. Coffee hissed. But every pair of eyes tracked the men in leather at booth 3. Roar sat at the end, near the window. His hands dwarfed the porcelain cup May had set down for him. He stirred once, absently, eyes distant, the way soldiers look at a horizon only they can see. A boy at the counter whispered, "That's Roar Collins. He used to run with the Steel Wings." His father shushed him, but curiosity rippled through the room. Roar pretended not to notice. The caffeine barely touched him. He'd been awake all night, replaying the grainy diner video May had sent. It wasn't the slap that haunted him. It was the way the girl stayed still afterward. No screaming, no anger, just quiet. That quiet was familiar. 12 years ago, Roar's own daughter, Hannah, had been pushed in the parking lot after school. Different town, same kind of boys. He'd arrived too late. By the time he found her, she was sitting in the gravel, clutching her backpack, whispering that nobody helped. 2 weeks later, the drunk driver who hit her bike took her life. Roar had lived with that silence ever since, the silence of not being there when it mattered. He looked around now, seeing the same kind of people who had turned away back then, the same nervous eyes, the same uneasy guilt. Across from him, Diesel, his oldest friend, leaned forward. "You sure about this, brother? We don't need cops knocking." Roar nodded once. "We ain't breaking anything." He glanced toward the counter where May stood. "We're fixing something." Diesel cracked a faint smile. "Guess we're back in business." Outside, the roar of distant engines echoed. More riders arriving. Word had spread. Steel Wings weren't a gang anymore. They were a family of ghosts, drawn by the scent of injustice. Roar's gaze shifted to the window. Through the glass, the reflection of the diner blurred into a memory. Hannah on her birthday, sitting on the back of his bike, helmet too big for her head, laughing as the wind caught her hair. He blinked hard and looked away. May approached the table, setting down fresh coffee. "You don't have to do anything, Roar," she said quietly. "I just wanted someone to care." He met her eyes. "We don't do this to make noise, May. We do it so that next time nobody has to." Her throat tightened. She nodded and walked back to the counter, fighting tears she hadn't expected. In the corner booth, the same bullies shifted nervously. One of them whispered, "Man, we should go." But their leader, the one in the varsity jacket, smirked. "They're just old dudes. Relax." Roar heard him. He set down his cup gently and stood. The floor seemed to quiet beneath his boots. He didn't need to raise his voice. "Son," he said, "you spill another drop of cruelty in this place, and you'll be cleaning it with your own pride." The boy blinked, half laughing, unsure if it was a joke. Roar smiled faintly. "Sit down. Eat your food. And when you're done, apologize to the girl who sat here yesterday. Her name's Clara." "How do you know her name?" the boy asked. Roar looked toward May. "Because someone cared enough to tell me." The diner went silent again, not with fear this time, but with the weight of decency finding its voice. Outside, a gust of wind rattled the flags on Main Street. The horizon shimmered with heat. Somewhere far off, more engines answered the call. The day had started with humiliation. By noon, it smelled like redemption waiting to happen. By noon, the video had crossed state lines. It was on every phone, every local news feed, and every community page from Milford to Jackson County. The headline read, "Disabled teen assaulted in local diner. No one intervened." Faces blurred, voices altered. But anyone from the town knew exactly who was who. Parents recognized their kids. Teachers recognized their students. And for the first time, shame spread faster than laughter. Inside the diner, Roar sat watching unfold on his phone, jaw tight. May hovered nearby, refilling mugs no one was touching. The air buzzed with the kind of tension that made people whisper instead of breathe. Then the door opened. The bell chimed softly, and the diner fell still once again. Clara rolled in, quiet, pale, sketchbook on her lap. Every head turned. Even the bullies stopped chewing. She shouldn't have come back, but she did. May froze mid-step. "Clara, honey." "It's okay," she said softly, almost smiling. "I forgot to pay for my pancakes yesterday." The room exhaled like it had been holding its breath for hours. Roar rose slowly from his seat, the shadow of his frame stretching across the tile. His brothers followed, boots clicking like a metronome. He didn't speak at first, just crouched beside her wheelchair, meeting her eyes. "You okay, kid?" Clara hesitated, then nodded. "I guess so." He smiled faintly. "Good. That's brave of you, coming back here." She looked around. "I didn't want him to win." The line hit everyone in the room like a quiet thunderclap. Even the bullies shifted uncomfortably. Roar stood, turned to the table where they Saturday. "You heard the lady." The leader looked up, voice trembling. "Look, man, we didn't mean—" "Don't tell me," Roar interrupted. "Tell her." For a moment, no one moved. Then one of the boys, the youngest, stood. His lips trembled. "I'm sorry," he said softly. I didn't stop them." Clara nodded, eyes shining but steady. "Thank you." The leader stayed seated, eyes darting between Roar and his friends. Roar stepped closer. "You think being loud makes you strong," he said quietly. "Try being decent. It's a harder job. No shouting, no threats, just calm authority." And it hit harder than any slap. The boy swallowed, staring at the floor. Finally, he muttered, "I'm sorry." "Good," Roar said, turning away. "Now eat your food before it gets cold." The tension broke. Soft, almost awkward laughter from the tables around. The spell had lifted. May wiped her eyes behind the counter. "Coffee refill, Clara?" "Please," Clara whispered. Roar sat again, his brothers following suit. The diner slowly returned to life. Plates clinking, soft music returning, conversations resuming. But something had shifted. People looked at Clara differently now, not with pity, but with quiet respect. Outside, a small crowd had gathered, phones raised. Some filmed the moment through the glass, capturing the unexpected ending to a story that had begun in cruelty. On social media, new videos began to replace the old ones. The caption now read, "The bikers came back." That night, a photo went viral. Clara in her wheelchair, Roar's vest draped around her shoulders, the morning sun glowing through the diner window behind them. Underneath, a comment from someone anonymous read, "Heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they ride Harleys." By sunset, the diner that once smelled of burnt coffee and silence had turned into something else, a symbol. The video of Clara's return was everywhere now. Not from hidden cameras this time, but from people who wanted the truth seen. It showed the moment Roar knelt beside her, the way the Bullies' smirks dissolved, and how Clara lifted her head without flinching. Within hours, hashtags began to appear. Hashtag Stand With Clara. Hashtag Steel Wings Ride Again. Local news vans lined Main Street. The diner's flickering neon sign had never seen so many cameras. May watched from behind the counter, half proud, half worried. She'd never asked for fame, only decency. Still, she couldn't deny what it felt like to see her town finally wake up. "Guess we're famous," muttered Diesel, flipping through his phone. Roar just grunted, eyes on the window. Fame's cheap. Change ain't. He wasn't wrong. The same people who'd looked away yesterday were now posting long captions about courage and kindness. The same manager who told May to stay out of trouble was now giving interviews about community values. Clara, meanwhile, sat by the window sketching again, the same booth, same coffee, but this time surrounded by warmth. Strangers came up quietly to say hello. Some left notes. One left a bouquet of wildflowers. When a little girl approached shyly and whispered, "You're really brave," Clara smiled and said, "You can be too." That simple line would become the headline of tomorrow's paper. Later that evening, after the cameras left and the sun melted into orange haze, Roar stepped outside for air. The street was quieter now. Only a few bikes remained parked, their metal frames catching the glow of the streetlights. May joined him, dry her hands with a towel. "She reminded me of your Hannah," she said softly. Roar nodded. Same fire. Smaller body, bigger soul. He exhaled slowly, watching smoke curl into the night. "I used to think I was done riding for anything that wasn't a paycheck. Guess I was wrong." May smiled faintly. "You didn't ride for her today. You rode for all of us." He looked at her then, really looked, seeing not just a waitress, but someone who had finally found her courage again. "Maybe, but you're the one who lit the match." She laughed quietly. "Guess I just sent a text." "Sometimes," Roar said, glancing toward the diner window where Clara laughed with a stranger. "That's all it takes to start a fire." Across the street, the same group of bullies stood awkwardly beside their car. Their parents had dragged them back. Forced apologies, long talks, trembling excuses. But Clara didn't glare at them. She just nodded politely and returned to her sketch. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant moving forward. When the parents left, one of the boys lingered. He reached into his backpack and pulled out something folded. A torn page. The drawing of Clara standing on her own legs. I found this outside yesterday," he said softly. "I'm sorry for what we did." Clara took the page gently. "Thank you," she said. "I'm glad you brought it back." He looked at her a moment longer, eyes wet, then turned and walked away. May stood in the doorway watching, whispering to herself, "Maybe there's hope after all." That night, the diner closed late. The Steel Wings stayed to help clean up, wiping tables, stacking chairs, like they'd done it all their lives. Roar set a folded $100 bill under his coffee cup before leaving. On the napkin beside it, he'd written in small, rough handwriting, "For the next girl who needs breakfast and courage." When the engine started again, the whole town seemed to vibrate. Windows lit up, dogs barked, kids pressed their faces to glass as the Roar faded down the road. May watched the taillights disappear into the horizon, a faint smile on her lips. Somewhere deep down, she knew this wasn't the end of the story, just a part where everyone learned what it means to care out loud. The next morning, Main Street didn't wake up quietly. Reporters camped outside the diner before sunrise. Cameras hummed. Locals gathered, some out of guilt, others out of pride. A handmade sign hung in the window now, scribbled in red marker. "We stand with Clara." Clara arrived just after 8. Her mother tried to convince her to stay home, but Clara refused. "If I don't come back, they win twice," she said. She rolled up to the diner's door, a line of strangers parting to let her through. The bell chimed, and this time it sounded like victory. Inside, May was waiting with her favorite pancakes. "On the house, sweetheart." Clara smiled, though her hands still trembled. "Thank you." Roar and the Steel Wings had returned too, not for a fight, but for something quieter. They parked their bikes in perfect formation, forming a half-circle around the diner entrance. No weapons, no shouting, just presence, heavy, unshakable, like justice made of metal and thunder. People from town started joining them. Shopkeepers, teachers, even the old man who had looked away during the slap. He stood beside Roar now, hat in hand, face solemn. "I should have done something that day," the man said. Roar nodded. "You're doing it now." The two men clasped hands, a silent agreement between past and present. Inside, May wiped down the counter, her eyes darting between the door and the girl at the corner booth. For the first time since she started working there, she wasn't afraid of her own customers. The same group of bullies walked in, heads low, parents behind them. The crowd outside murmured. The diner fell quiet again, but this silence was different. Not cold, not cruel, just waiting. The leader, the one who had slapped Clara, stepped forward. His voice broke halfway through a sentence. "I was wrong," he said. "We were all wrong. I'm sorry." Clara's eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. She looked at him for a long moment, then said softly, "Don't be sorry. Be better." The boy nodded. He meant it. Everyone could feel it. Roar watched from his booth, his face unreadable, but May caught the small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Outside, the engine started again, not as a threat, but as a salute. One by one, the bikers revved their throttles, the sound rolling down the street like applause. People stepped out of stores, raising hands, wiping eyes. For once, the noise wasn't about rebellion. It was about respect. Clara turned toward the window, sunlight glinting in her hair. Roar walked over, kneeling beside her one last time. "You know," he said, "you did more for this town than we ever could." She smiled faintly. "Maybe we did it together." He chuckled. "Yeah, maybe." Then he reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a small leather patch, the faded insignia of the Steel Wings. He placed it on the table beside her sketchbook. "Keep this," he said. "You earned your wings." Clara ran her fingers across the patch, tracing the emblem. "I don't even ride a bike." Roar grinned. "You don't have to. You already know how to rise." The moment felt sacred, quiet but infinite. When Roar stood and turned to leave, the crowd outside stepped back, creating a path. The other bikers followed him to their machines. Helmets glinting in the sunlight. Engines roared in unison, a sound not of war, but healing. May stepped outside, wiping tears she hadn't planned on shedding. Roar looked back once. "You take care of her," he said. "I will," May replied. "And take care of yourself, too. Guilt's a heavy passenger." May smiled. "Not anymore." He nodded once, then twisted the throttle. The bikes thundered down Main Street, fading into horizon, leaving behind the echo of forgiveness and a town forever changed. When the dust settled, Clara opened her sketchbook again. On a clean white page, she began to draw, not herself standing this time, but riding. Wind in her hair, wheels spinning freely beneath her. At the bottom of the page, she wrote 3 words in small, neat letters. "Thank you, strangers." The same man who once filmed her pain now filmed her smile, and this video would travel farther than the first one ever did. This time, people didn't scroll past. They stopped, they watched, and maybe, just maybe, they changed a little. A week later, the diner looked the same booths, same smell of frying bacon. Yet everything felt lighter, like the air had learned how to forgive. The manager finally hung a new sign above the counter. Kindness served here. It wasn't just decoration. He'd started offering free meals for students who came alone. May's idea. Clara now visited every morning, sketchbook in hand. She didn't sit in the corner anymore. She sat by the front window, sunlight pooling across her table. Her art had changed, too. No longer drawings of escape, but of arrival. Open roads, wide skies, a girl in motion. Her online following exploded. The video of the diner redemption crossed millions of views. But what mattered most were the comments. My daughter's in a wheelchair. She watched this 3 times. Made me stand up for someone today. Respect to the steel wings. May printed some of them out and taped them to the fridge in the diner kitchen. Each comment felt like another apology the town never said out loud. One afternoon, a sound rolled in from the distance. Softer this time, a single motorcycle instead of 7. Clara looked up from her sketchbook, smiling even before she saw him. Roar parked outside, dismounting with that familiar slow confidence. He stepped in, nodding to the regulars. Heard the pancakes here are decent, he joked. May grinned. Depends who's serving. They laughed, and for a second, it was like the world before everything went wrong. Roar handed Clara a small envelope. From the club, he said. Inside was a folded photo. The steel wings lined up behind her the day of the salute, the diner glowing in the background. On the back, scrawled in Diesel's handwriting, were 4 words. Ride on, little wing. Clara traced the letters, her eyes bright. Tell them, thank you. I think they already know, Roar said quietly. He stayed for coffee, talking about the road, the people he'd met, the way every town had its own ghosts. Before leaving, he looked around one last time. Funny, he said, how a place like this can turn into something sacred. May nodded. All it takes is one good noise to drown out a bad one. Roar smiled. Guess that's what engines are for. When he left, the bell chimed softly behind him. The roar of his bike faded into the hills, leaving the town peaceful once more. Clara returned to her sketch, a new page forming beneath her pencil. The diner bathed in morning light, a small wheelchair by the window, and far in the distance, a line of motorcycles disappearing into the sunrise. This time, she signed her name in bold strokes. Because now, she wasn't drawing who she wished she could be. She was drawing who she become. It's strange how the loudest sound in that diner wasn't the slap. It wasn't even the engines. It was the silence afterward, the one that made people realize they'd been quiet for too long. In the weeks that followed, Milford changed in small ways that mattered. Teachers started noticing the quiet kids. People spoke up when cruelty walked into the room. And every Sunday morning, someone would leave a single wildflower on the diner's counter, a silent thank you to a girl who refused to disappear. The steel wings rode on to other towns, other wrongs. They didn't post or brag. They just showed up where decency had gone missing. As for Clara, she never stopped drawing. But one sketch became special. 7 motorcycles parked outside a diner, sunlight breaking through clouds. She titled it When Kindness Rode In. It hangs on the wall above booth 3 now, framed in oak, her signature neat at the bottom. And if you listen closely, when the morning breeze rattles that glass, it almost sounds like distant engines, still rolling, still reminding us that courage doesn't always arrive quietly. Sometimes it roars. If the story moved you, share it. Because somewhere out there, another Clara is waiting for someone to stand up. Don't wait for the bikers. Be one.